welcome to week one here on CROTCH ROCKET SPORTS of the NFL. It is finally back. You guys may have seen my video the other day on the NFL predictions for the entire year, but we're going to be consistent here this year, and on every Saturday, after talking with my boy Caedon, we are going to come up with picks for the week. Now, these picks are just my picks here for week one. I'm going to be comparing with him, and we're actually going to be combining these moving forward and just seeing where we compare and contrast. Like, for example, I'm probably going to pick Dallas to win every week, and he's probably going to pick the Eagles to win every single week because we both have those problems. And so really what we're going to do is we're going to go through and we're going to talk about what the point spreads are, what the money lines are in each one of these games, and actually who we think are going to win these games. And so this is always a lot of fun. It's definitely a passion of mine for sure. I love football. Anybody that knows me knows this. It's definitely my favorite sport. And so let's go ahead and go down the line of all of these games. Now, Kansas City and Detroit already happened. I did pick Detroit to win that game, actually, to the dismay of a lot of my friends from Missouri, where I'm from, actually originally. Been in Indy here for a little over 10 years now. But and it's not my dislike for the Chiefs, which people that know me know that I definitely dislike the Chiefs. It's just Detroit, their culture. I feel like that they've turned a corner. And I'm not saying they're going to win the Super Bowl anytime soon, but they're definitely a much different team than what I have seen, in the 40 plus years of my life for sure. Seems that they're turning things around. Anyway, Kansas City won that one. They were a 4.5 point, or Detroit won. Kansas City was a 4.5 point favorite, and that's that. So I'm 1-0 to start the year. So moving into tomorrow's games, we've got Jacksonville at Indianapolis. Jacksonville is a 4.5 point favorite in that game, and no shocker there. I've got Jacksonville winning that game. Indianapolis, they're definitely going to be taking a step back. Really curious to see what this new Richardson dude is going to do for them at quarterback. I think he's going to be pretty decent, but Jacksonville, they're in the top tier of teams in this league right now. Thanks to Trevor Lawrence, and that team's just getting better and better. You're going to see Jacksonville in the playoffs, providing Trevor Lawrence doesn't get hurt. Of course, all of these predictions that we do are assuming that people don't get hurt, but in the NFL, there's a 100% guarantee of getting injured. One of these teams is going to have one of their main players go down. One of these teams that we think is going to do awesome is going to be terrible because half their team's going to get injured. It's inevitable. It happens every single year. The injury bug hits at least one team every single year. So, with that being said, Jacksonville's going to beat Indianapolis. Let's be real. And in the next game, we've got Houston going to the Baltimore Ravens. This is the biggest point spread of the week. This is a big point spread for the NFL. You see this in college all the time. But 9.5 points, that is a big point spread, especially for the NFL. You never really see anything more than 6 or 7. In other words, Las Vegas pretty much is guaranteeing just about the Baltimore Ravens are going to beat the Houston Texans. Houston is going to be one of the worst teams in the league this year, unless they're one of those surprise teams, because every year there is a surprise team in the NFL that just comes out of nowhere and does awesome. Unless that's Houston, Baltimore wins this game easy, 9.5 point favorite. The next game, we've got the Buccaneers going to the Minnesota Vikings. For some reason, Minnesota is favored in this game by 5, and I'm not seeing why. I mean, I know Kirk Cousins, I know Minnesota's typically good, but Minnesota last year, they won 11 games that were decided by 1 score or less. That's an NFL record. That never happens. So, in other words, every single one of these games that came down to the wire, if it was a 2 or 3 point game, Minnesota won all of them, all 11. That doesn't happen, and it's definitely an anomaly. I don't see that happening again. Minnesota is actually more like a little bit above, better than 500, but not as good as their record indicated last year. With that being said, in Tampa Bay, I know Tom Brady's not there anymore, but I love Baker Mayfield. A lot of people hate on Baker Mayfield. They maybe don't like his personality or whatever. I think Baker Mayfield is a fighter. I think he's awesome, and I think the Buccaneers are going to be a lot better than people think that they are. I've got Tampa Bay beating Minnesota, even though Minnesota's a 5.5 point favorite. The next game, we've got the 49ers going to the Pittsburgh Steelers, and San Francisco is favored in that game by 2.5. So in other words, a field goal. I think San Francisco is going to win by more than that. San Francisco is going to be one of the better teams in the league this year. I'm fairly certain of it. So yeah, I've got San Francisco beating the Steelers, even though the Steelers are at home. Really curious to see what Pittsburgh's going to look like with their quarterback situation and all that. And week one's always hard to pick anyway. It's probably the hardest week of the year to pick. Just you never know what happened during the offseason, the attitude some of these teams have. Regardless, I got San Francisco. Next game, we've got the Battle of Ohio. We got the Bengals, Cincinnati, going up against the Cleveland Browns. For some reason, Cincinnati is only a 2-point favorite in this one. I know Joe Burrow was questionable. I'm going to be honest. I'm not sure if he's even playing in week 1. I don't know. I'd have to look. I would think that if he was playing, that line would be a lot bigger. Regardless, I don't care who's playing. The Bengals are going to beat the Browns, even though it's only a 2-point favorite. Seeing that 2-point spread tells me that Burrow is probably not playing. We'll have to look at that after I record this video here. Maybe you could put in the comments if you find that out. Just kind of pop that to me. Next game is going to be one of the worst teams in the league, Arizona Cardinals, going up against the Washington Commanders, whatever. They're going to be the Commandos to me. They're ridiculous. The 7-point favorite Washington is. In other words, a touchdown favorite. That is the second biggest point spread of this weekend, and that is because Arizona sucks that bad. So yes, Washington is going to win that game. I have them picked to win as well. Next game, a little bit harder to pick, I think. Tennessee is going at New Orleans. And New Orleans is going to be interesting as Derek Carr went from the Vegas Raiders over to New Orleans. And I like Derek Carr. I really, really do. He's got kind of a bad rap there in Vegas. He's had awesome years. Reminds me a lot of like Tony Romo back when he was with Dallas. You just never know. He could throw 5 touchdowns in a game and he could throw 7 picks in a game. You just never know. But I do see New Orleans winning that game. I would pick them over Tennessee. I think Tennessee takes a step back. The only really awesome piece on that team is Derrick Henry. And in today's NFL passing league, you need more than an awesome running back. But anyway, I think New Orleans wins that game. The next game, I think it's the hardest one for me to pick, the second hardest one outside of Green Bay and Chicago. But this game is Carolina, the Panthers, going up against the Atlanta Falcons. And this is a 3.5-point spread. I don't know about either one of these teams, man. I think both of these are going to be at the lower end of the league this year. I'm picking Atlanta just because Atlanta's at home. And it's an indoor game. And Atlanta always seems to be better at home in that dome. So we shall see. But if I was betting my life on it, I'd take Atlanta. Next game is going to be Caedon's Philadelphia Eagles against the New England Patriots. New England, I think, is going to continue to step back. And I think for the first time, and since I was in high school, I think New England's going to be dead last in that division. I think they're going to finish last because the Jets have gotten better, the Dolphins are pretty awesome, and Buffalo's pretty awesome. I think New England's going to be at the bottom. This is a 4-point spread. In other words, Vegas thinks that Philadelphia is going to win by 4, and I would agree with them. I think they're going to win by more than 4. I think Philadelphia easily wins in New England. But you never know with Belichick and that team. He's a hell of a coach, and they somehow always pull something weird out. But not this week. I think Philadelphia beats them. Next game is Green Bay at Chicago. Definitely a different Green Bay team. For the first time in a very long time, Aaron Rodgers is not a Green Bay Packer. So it's going to be very, very weird. It's going to give Chicago a much better chance because, as anybody knows, they don't have very good luck against Mr. Rodgers. But the reason I picked Chicago in this game is I think Justin Fields is the difference in this game. It's only a 1-point spread. This is the lowest point spread of the entire week. This is the closest game. In other words, Vegas had a hard time figuring out between these two teams. I don't know who's going to win. We don't know what Jordan Love looks like in real life yet. I've seen him in practice. He looks good for Green Bay. But I'm giving Chicago the edge just because of that Justin Fields factor. I think Chicago wins by a field goal at least. Next game, we got the Miami Dolphins going against the LA Chargers. For some reason, the Chargers are favored in this game, maybe because of Justin Herbert. But Miami, if Tua stays healthy, dude, Miami is awesome. I think they're a really good team. I wouldn't want to play them in the playoffs. Even though the Chargers are favored, I'm picking Miami in this game to beat the Los Angeles Chargers, and it is in LA. The next game is the Los Angeles Rams. They're going to Seattle. And Seattle is a 5-point favorite, one of the bigger point spreads of the week. Seattle is getting better as well. They've been really, really quiet in the offseason, but if you look on paper, they have gotten much, much better. And Geno Smith, he kind of had an awesome year last year. Nobody was expecting that. So I do see Seattle beating the Rams very easily. I think the Rams are going to be among the bottom 5 in the league. They're going to be awful. They bought their Super Bowl a couple years ago. Now all those pieces are gone, and to be real, they kind of suck. So we shall see. Maybe they'll surprise me, but Seattle wins that game. Next game, we got the Vegas Raiders going up against the Denver Broncos. This is another weird one. I don't understand. Denver is favored, and I don't know why. If you saw Russell Wilson play last year in the Broncos, they were not good at all. Like, Russell Wilson's had like the worst year of his career. Their offensive production, not only one of the worst of his career, but like NFL in general in history, offensive efficiency was like the lowest that it's been. I'm talking since like the 70s. It was bad. They're just not, and I don't know how they got better. So I have no idea why Denver is favored. Maybe Vegas knows something that I don't, but ironically, they're playing Vegas. I am taking Las Vegas to win this game. I think the Raiders are going to beat them. Everybody keeps betting against Jimmy Garoppolo. I think he is awesome. He's another one of those dudes like Baker Mayfield. You either love him or you hate him. The guy just wins. He just wins all the time. And as long as he stays healthy, over the last couple of years, it seems like his leg's almost falling off. He has a hard time staying healthy for 3 or 4 weeks at a time. But Garoppolo is starting as of week 1 here for the Raiders. I'm taking the Raiders to beat the Broncos. Next game, we've got the Dallas Cowboys going up against the New York Giants for what seems like the 4th year in a row, I think, or something. 3rd year in a row for Sunday Night Football, I know. And I think Dallas is victorious over them. They're a 3.5-point favorite. And it's not just because I can't stand the Giants. I'm being real with my picks this year. I'm trying to not just say Dallas wins everything all the time, because if time has taught me anything, it's that doesn't work. But in this case, Dallas is the better team. Barring injuries, I think that Dallas should win this game fairly easily, honestly. It should be by a touchdown at least. But no matter how good or bad Dallas or New York is, it's always a good game. It always ends up being a good game and seems to come down to the wire with these guys. But I got Dallas by a touchdown in this one. And the last one, another really, really hard one to pick, is the Buffalo Bills going against the New York Jets. That's on Monday night. Buffalo is a 2.5-point favorite in that game, but I think it's a lot more even than that, just because of the Aaron Rodgers factor and the pieces the Jets have put together. I think the Jets are going to have an amazing year and may make a deep playoff run if everything stays healthy. They definitely got a chip on their shoulders. They have something to prove. They have not won the Super Bowl nor been to a Super Bowl since 1967 with Joe Namath. Maybe it was 1970. Anyway, it was Super Bowl III. Whenever Joe Namath was there, the Jets have just been like mediocre ever since. And I really think they have a passionate fan base, and I really, really think that this is the year that the Jets kind of step it up a little bit. Regardless, if I am betting the farm on this one, I got to say the Bills win, just because of Josh Allen and the talent around them. Even though I mentioned in that video from the other day, I think Buffalo's window has closed as far as Super Bowl winning, just because of Cincinnati, how good they are, the Chiefs. I think the Ravens are coming up, the Dolphins. I think Buffalo had their chance, and I think it's gone. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they win the Super Bowl this year. Who knows? It is the NFL, and it is wacky. So anyway, that is my Week 1 NFL pick. So just to recap, just really, really quickly, my winners, I've got Jacksonville, Baltimore, Tampa Bay, San Francisco, Cincinnati, the Commandos, New Orleans, Atlanta, Philly, Chicago, Miami, Seattle, Vegas, Dallas, and the Jets. Regardless, let's have a good Week 1 and hope to see you guys next week. I'll share my record with you and see how we compare up against the big boys. And we'll keep this season going, man. Thank God football's here. Have a good weekend. Stay blessed, everybody.